Welcome to Nursing Uncensored, the show where I have real conversations like this with nurses and allied health professionals about all things in the nursing universe. This podcast is meant to bring education, advocacy, and as you can see, laughter to nurses and nursing students, and nothing is off limits. We're always honest, but we're not always safe for work, so listen responsibly. I'm your host, Nurse Adrienne Benning. It's actually a really hot and sunny day here in Minneapolis, and today I'm welcoming Kevin Gibson, aka the Boot Nurse. He is a 14-year Navy hospital corpsman, a Navy instructor, and a new ICU nurse. Welcome, Kevin, to the show. It's nice to talk to you. We've been talking for a while now, but now you're officially on the show.
Yeah. Hey, what's up? Hey, Adrienne, I appreciate you having me on here. This has been a good time so far. I wish you guys could have heard all the pre-recorded stuff because it was really fucking funny. But thank you. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, I'm glad that we've gotten to talk like this. We've been talking a little bit online, and I've been watching your videos on your YouTube channel. I think you have a really interesting perspective. I think that today we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. I do wish I had hit record a little bit because we've been all over the place. We've been talking about nursing podcasts. We've been talking about the scorpion in your garage. What part of the world are you coming to us from?
I live in the great state of Texas. I actually reside in San Antonio right now. That's where the Navy had brought me. And Texas isn't looking so hot right now because of some, political decisions from certain individuals that I won't say are in wheelchairs. But
I mean, we got unfortunate political people all over the country right now, so we're not going to hate on your state. Yeah. Tell us about your background in the Navy. My dad was a Navy man, so
cool. Hey, shout out to your dad for being in the Navy.
Yeah, go Navy.
Navy.
How all did tell us about your trajectory? How did you come to be a Navy man? How did you come to be a nurse? Let's hear a little bit about that. I know a little bit about your story from just videos of yours that I've watched, but tell our listeners a little bit about how you got to the roles you're in now.
All right. So when I was a wee lad back in 2006, when I graduated high school, I always said to myself, I'm not joining nobody's military. What kind of fool do I look like? Well, in 2007, I was that fool that looked like someone joining the fucking military. But before that, I did a year of college. And this is to all the listeners out there or whoever, it doesn't matter who's listening to this, is like college is not meant for everybody. There are plenty of successful people that have never been to college, who have never graduated. Not saying that you don't want to have some type of education, but you don't have to go to college to succeed and be successful in life. So I did a year of college. It was not all that it was hyped up to be. And plus I was 18. I was not ready. Mentally, I was not ready for just that responsibility. I graduated high school, woke up, and I was like, damn, what do I do next? So like I said, did a year of college. After that, a recruiter called me about a year into college or maybe a little bit less than that and asked me what I wanted to join the Navy. And I was just like, I don't know. So a Friday I went up there. I was up there for 3 hours. And if anybody knows how recruiters are, one, they're big liars. Two, they're usually off by noon. And I was there till 3 or 4. So I already know they were mad. And then after I discussed, where it could take me, the slogan back when I joined was accelerate your life. Now it's America's Navy or something like that. And once I did that, talked to my dad about it, talked to my friend's dad about it. They were like, try it. If you do it for 4 or 5 years, you get a lot of benefits out of it than if you didn't join. So went to the recruiter, told him I would do it. A few months later, I was in basic training and, I was since September of 2007, I was active duty in the Navy as a hospital corpsman. That took me to, a couple of places I've been to Germany, I've been to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, been to Florida, been to California, been to Afghanistan. I might have real estate there, maybe a little bit, probably not. Oh, I'm just kidding. I don't got real estate there. It's taken me to a couple places like that. Your experience will vary if you decide to join the military, and it will vary drastically depending on the branch that you decide to join. So I joined the Navy because I said I wanted to see the world, and I kind of got a little bit of a glimpse of that, and I can still continue to get a glimpse of that from other things. So I became a surge tech in the Navy, and I still technically am a surge tech. I still have the certification and everything for it. And I did that for 10 years, everything from, working in an oral maxillofacial surgery clinic to working as a service senior in general surgery, scrubbing surgical cases. It was just a lot. Like I have learned, and I've learned a lot and been blessed with the opportunity just to get so much knowledge from the military. Then I decided, after when I was deployed, I was like, man, I want to teach. Like, I feel like I can teach, and I would really enjoy teaching others. And I guess as you start to progress through life, it's just like, you want to be able to pass on the things that you learned so people can learn the right way. Then they develop their own way. And that is how I ended up in San Antonio. I got promoted when I got back from Afghanistan. I applied to become an instructor. And 2015 is when I came here to San Antonio to be an instructor. All of enlisted military medicine, which is like your technical jobs, like X-ray, basic medics, and stuff like that. All of them are here in San Antonio. So if you're in the Army, you're in the Air Force, you're in the Navy, if you decided to enlist, this is where you would go. An instructor for 3.5 years. It was probably the best or most rewarding positions that I ever got to work in, to where, you've been in the Navy. At that point, I think I was in the Navy about 8 or 9 years, and I got to teach, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, how to become a surgical tech. And the program that we had was 6 months versus if you did it on the civilian side, it's a 2-year program. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it's like that is because they go to school every day, 8 hours a day on top of, the military responsibilities that they have, such as working out or, PT or military training, marching, all that good jazz. But yeah, I definitely loved it. I loved it a lot, to where I went and I did another instructor position from 2018 until July of this year, where I was a TCCC, which is a tactical combat casualty care instructor, as well as a BLS instructor. What else did I do? I was a coordinator for a program called Emergency War Surgery course, which is where they teach physicians and the surgical teams, which consist of nurses, CRNAs, anesthesia providers, the surgical techs, and everybody that's a part of that team, how to perform emergency surgical procedures in a combat zone. As well as I was an ABLS instructor. ABLS stands for Advanced Burn Life Support, which will segue into when I talk about when I worked at the burn center as an intern, as well as I did. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on one of them, but it's PHTLS, pre-hospital trauma life support. Or life. You're
drawing a blank because that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff. So, I got to teach those. I'm still currently instructor for all of those, as well as they have another program. And this is a really good one for nurses. You don't have to be military, but there's a program called the International Trauma Life Support, which is if you are a nurse and you are a trauma nurse core course instructor, you can, or if you're a TCCC instructor or PHTLS, you could actually be an instructor for that, to where you could go teach those courses to allied countries. And you don't have to be military to do that.
Wow. So I'm just curious, just back up for a second. The emergency combat surgery. So what are we talking about? Like chest tubes, trachs?
So
what are we talking about?
Everything from chest tubes, trachs, amputations, you name it, they can do.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
So it's like I said, it consists of the surgeons, the anesthesia providers, the surgical techs, the basic medics, everybody that's part of a what we would call a forward surgical team, or a fleet surgical team, is what we would call it in the Navy, or shock trauma platoons, if you are a part of the Marine Corps, if you're in the Navy and you are attached to the Marine Corps units, stuff like that. So it really does. Yeah, it really does teach you, like, it kind of just throws you into the fire. I mean, it's guided. It's a very controlled fire for the most part when you're in training, but it's to give you the mindset of what you're going to be walking into. Oh, and also when you do these courses, you get CEUs and all that good jazz for them. Yeah.
All right.
It's pretty crazy.
Heyo. So you've got quite the background. Like, I was not expecting that. Like, I knew you had a lot of training, but I was not expecting that. So when you say, I mean, I don't want to give anything away, but when you say you're going into like ICU and flight nurse aspirations, like, you've already got a whole lot of knowledge under your belt. So you're pretty well equipped to be going into this like trajectory of learning and preparation and certification. So
for the most part, yes. I've been so stuck in my ways of doing other things that it's when you jump into a new field, and like I said, especially for people that are that are doing nursing as a second career. When you jump into a new career, it's like going from, the top of where we were back to the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah.
So, I've been doing all this stuff as a surgical tech and as an instructor and all this other stuff, but when it comes to nursing, I'm back at the bottom.
Yeah.
However, mentally, I know that if I could have handled all of that with all the time that I had in between there, I know, like, as a nurse with more time as a nurse, that I'll be able to mentally be able to tackle whatever the fuck that nursing has to offer.
But then you go into like your first semester lab and they're like, okay, now inject the saline into the fake fat pad. And you're like, I was doing trachs in the field. Like,
it's funny. It's funny that you say that, because that's exactly what happened. If it was IM injections, freaking Foley catheters, trach replacements, all of that stuff, I'm just like, oh, okay. Given insulin, sub-Q injections or peg lines or anything like that, IVs, drawing blood, and I'm just like, I flew through it. And so once I did that, people started seeing me and they were just like, oh man, I'm just going to hang out with you. And I'm just like, I got bad habits. You might not want to do that.
Yeah. Like, I'm not doing this textbook.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Well, that's how it was when I took my, when I had to get certified as a nursing assistant for nursing school. My nursing school required that I be a certified nursing assistant. And my hospital where I had been working for like 11 years didn't require that I be certified. And they were like, well, you should probably take the CNA class before you take the exam, because this is a really hard exam. And I was like, I've been doing this since like you were in elementary school. So can you just let me take the exam? And they were like, yeah, but it's really hard. And I was like, again, just let me take the exam. And I passed the exam.
Right.
And they were like, oh, but the live test out was like, okay, can you demonstrate how to like clean these dentures? And I was like, this is what I had to take a class for. Like, I do this 18 times a day. So
they want you to have that systematic structure. Everybody has to learn the same.
Yeah. I'm like, yes, I know. I read the pamphlet. I know what steps you're expecting me to do. It's fine. I can handle it. But yeah, it's true. Like, you have to fall, probably very similar to the military. You have to fall in line. You have to do it in the way that you've been instructed to do it. They want to see that you can follow the instructions, that you demonstrate proficiency, and then, you go on from there. So, okay. And then you did all of this, and then, you're starting from scratch in nursing school. In one of the videos I watched, you talked about being on inactive duty while you were in nursing school. So what does that look like? I have no idea how that even goes, like what your schedule looks like, what does that look like?
It looks like shit. And let me tell you why. Y'all, I don't know, anybody that watches, or I'm sorry, anybody that hears the audio, like, I almost made Adrian like spit.
I almost choked. I was taking a sip.
So to kind of give you a backstory, I decided I wanted to be a nurse back in like 2012. I had said to a mentor of mine, I was like, hey, I think I want to be a nurse. And, in order to make yourself very competitive, you have to do things outside the box in the military in order for yourself to stand out and, to allow them to let you do that or for them to pick you. He said, first thing you got to do is go on a deployment. And I was just like, man, how in the hell am I going to swing that? Because at this point, this is where deployments were dying down and we were pulling out of a war and all that good stuff. So 3 weeks later, I find out that, hey, there's a deployment and I got the opportunity to go to it. I was gone for a year. I did a lot of emergency stuff. I got to do a couple of flight things and it was great. Come 2013, that's when I hit the ground running. I found out about all my prereqs and all that good stuff. So my prereqs were from 2013 until 2016. And then when 2016 came around and I had to do pathophysiology and I had to do pharm, I sat down with my chain of command, and this is when I was an instructor, and I asked them, I was just like, hey, if I'm able to give you my 40 hours, meaning I'm on the podium where I need to be, I'm in the right uniform, I am at PT, I'm still doing all my, my roles and my responsibilities, do I have your blessing to go to nursing school? Everybody said yes. Everybody said yes, but the way that they said yes was just very Navy-ish. Like my two of my officers that were in charge of our program, both are nurses. One was a med surg nurse and the other one was an OR nurse, who are both huge mentors to me still to this day. One actually is about to retire. And the other two, who I love them both dearly, are just assholes and I love them. But the way that they said it was just like, oh, you're going to fail anyway. And I was just like, so that's a yes. And then he was just like, well, just to let you know that if I was ever, sick, I would never let you be my nurse. And I was just like, okay, so that was a yes too. So yeah, but it's only because I've known them for so long and we have that rapport with one another and they're assholes. So,
but also I'm kind of like, if they had said that to me, I would have been like, oh, now I'm for sure going to fucking pass this fucking program. And you just watch. And I am going to be your nurse and your sponge bath is going to be cold. Yeah.
Or I'm going to be like, nurse, I need help. I'm going to be like, I'm just a tech. And I just walk away. No, I wouldn't do that. So that happened. And once they gave me the blessing, I started nursing school in January of 2017. So kind of paint a picture for you how my first semester went. I woke up at 5:00 or probably about 4:45 actually to get to PT, physical training, with my students from 5:30 to 6:30. And then from 6:30 on, everybody gets showered, all that good stuff. And then we show back up to work and work starts at 8. So from 8 until 1700 or 5:00 for those that aren't on military time, was a lecture lab as a surgical tech. And then anything after that was my own personal time. And so it could be from 7:00 to 1:00 in the morning to where I would be studying or I would be catching up on stuff. And I was doing that every day for my first semester. And it was absolutely horrible. But then a shining light happened to where I essentially got promoted to being a clinical instructor. So all I had to do was just be at the hospitals with my students, make sure that they got on the bus to get to their clinical sites and to have clinical oversight. So that way, if the charge nurses need to get a hold of me, if the nurse managers need to get a hold of me, I was right there. If there was any type of administrative or disciplinary action that needed to happen in regards to my students being my students, because let's just be real, most of them were 18. It's kind of hard for them kind of breaking out of that shell for where mommy and daddy tell them what to do and to where military mommy and daddy tell you what to do. Mm-hmm. They found me. So my students would be in there. I would sit there. I would talk to them. I would eat breakfast with them. I'd make sure they were good to go in their surgical cases. And I would go and I would sit in the cafeteria and be able to do coursework, for a couple of hours, go check on them, and then do the same thing over and over and over. And that was pretty much how I was able to handle that for my first maybe my first 6 to 9 months of the program. But then came some craziness to where they were going to try to transfer me. and they were going to transfer me to a ship. And anybody that's in the Navy knows that once you get on a ship, it's just like mission. Anything else that you do after that is your own personal time. But a lot of times you don't get personal time when you're on a ship. So, and at the same time, I was applying for nursing programs. Essentially, you would consider them like a nurse residency programs through the military, but they will pay for you to go to school, 100% of the way. And you focus solely on school. You don't have to do work. You don't have to do anything else. That's if you get selected. And then once you get selected, you get commissioned as an officer. Once you get commissioned as an officer, you will go to your first duty station or your first command or your first hospital, and you will work there wherever they want to put you. Kind of like where you're a new grad nurse and they're just like, hey, everybody's going to med surg, or everybody's going to, wherever the beginning is at. The float is the stars, I think that's what it's called, or floating and stuff like that. So I had all that happening. And then, long story short, fast forward, I eventually got orders to stay here, where I got to be the TCCC instructor. And I was able to finish out my last semester here, to include clinicals and to include graduation.
So that you didn't get stuck on the ship. That's good.
No, I
That's
didn't. I didn't get stuck on the ship. And I'm really glad I didn't get stuck on the ship. So, funny story, one of those two people that I told about, me starting nursing school, if it wasn't for him, calling, making phone calls and telling people what I had going on, if it wasn't for him, I would have, number one, never got those orders for me to stay here. And which means I would have never been able to finish nursing school on time. So I owe a lot to him. He knows that. He's still an asshole. He knows that. But he's also like one of like the best mentors that I've ever had, like on the enlisted side, when it comes to, career stuff, even if it's not military. Like he's a very smart guy, and he knows I appreciate him a lot. And then I graduated August of 2018.
Shout out to him.
Shout out to him. So
well, sometimes it's important. Sometimes those people that may have, the hardest shells are the ones that pull out all the stops for us.
Yeah,
so.
that's a hard shell, like a tungsten fucking tank shell. It's hard to get through him sometimes, but he has a soft spot. I hope he hears this too, and he knows that I think he's a softie. I said it.
Oh, all right. Well, he knows what he did.
Yeah, he better know. He better know.
So let's talk about some other stuff here. So we've talked about your experiences in the military. So what's it been like being a military man in a female dominated profession? So, you go from this experience of being like having all these hard ass tungsten shelled, people around you. And now you're in this profession working in hospitals where, even though nurses are very badass, I'm not saying that nurses all fit this, what is it, like this stereotypical demeanor of like angelic, soft, sweet. Like nurses are badass. Like nurses are awesome. But what's it like being I had statistics. I don't know if I have them here, but there's a growing number of men in nursing. I think it's like 9% or something like that now, but still it's 9%. 9% is like not a massive number. What's it like being a man in nursing? What have your experiences been like?
I kind of like to think about it like, in Aladdin, where he sings to Jasmine and they're doing the carpet ride around the world. It's like a whole new world. I'm not going to sing it because that's embarrassing. I've already done that.
We'll save that for like the Patreon or something later.
For real, y'all make sure y'all get over there and y'all hear my singing skills. By the way, for anybody that wants to know, I don't care if you want to know, but you're about to know right now. Princess Jasmine is the best Disney princess on the planet. So, being a man in a predominantly, female driven occupation, like it's different. It's different. I realize like it is a different type of environment, but it's not as bad as I thought it was. It's like, a lot of the things that happen, I guess, and it might be just because I'm a little bit older now, probably not that old, but I get called an old head anyway. So, but I don't think it's not that bad until like a lot more emotions are put into, certain things rather than logic. Like I've seen to where, I'll give you an example. Like when I was in clinicals, there's like women like to click up a lot, and they will start to talk shit about other females. And there's one thing that I heard, I don't know if you listen to Katie Duke, but she says that women are fucking horrible to one another. And I didn't believe it until I saw it. And I was just like, all I hear is just like, I don't like her. I don't like her. And I'm like, why? And I was like, she's a good nurse and she's doing her thing. I don't like her because she just doesn't talk. And I'm just like, well, what in the fuck kind of answer is that? Yeah. And I don't even want to sound sexist about this, but there are certain things that some guys can do that women cannot do. Like if you're trying to, I don't know, lift a patient. Like I can't even tell you how many times they're just like, hey, we need your muscles. I'm just like, first off, who talking to you? Like what muscles do I have? Right? And then the second time it's just like, you grab like one of the other guys that was there who's taller or whatever. Hey, we're going to help turn this patient, or we're going to help lift this patient. We're going to help do this. We're going to help do that. And I'm just like, okay. But I do respect the team effort in regards to that. Yeah. I guess.
Have you ever had a female patient refuse your care because you're a dude, like not wanting to be cathed by you or not wanting to be bathed or whatever?
I have not. And the reason I think because I think some of them were uncomfortable. So what I would say when I was taking care of a female patient, it would either be two people, or I would ask them, hey, would you like a female in here with us? Or would you like a female to do it? And they were just like, I had one, I think she said to me, she was just like, oh, 2 men in here, huh? And I was just like, ma'am, would you like a female to be in here with us as well? And she was just like, no, I just wanted to just make sure I saw it right. And I'm just like, no, we can get a female in here. And so we got a female in there. And so, and then anytime we were working, with a female, I would always verbally, even if they were intubated or whatever, I would always verbally say, hey, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to clean your bottom, or we're going to clean this, so we're going to clean that. So that way, because, I've seen a lot of intubated patients that are on, I don't know, 1 million drips, that when I start talking to them, I was like, hey, are you okay? Tube all in the throat, doing this. I'm just like, what the hell? So I've never had that problem per se, to where they didn't want my care or they didn't want me to provide care to them. It would always just be like, just to cover myself, because I had a phenomenal nurse manager when I was interning at the burn center, and she was giving me, she was laying them all out, telling me like, things to be mindful of, things to do this, to do that, about female patients, about, family members, about turning the patient, you name it. So she was absolutely phenomenal. Showed me what a nurse manager is supposed to do in regards of taking care of the nurses, and as well as education and all that great stuff. So when it came to my female patients, like it always stuck in my head what she said, always. Yeah,
good. So yeah, I've seen a lot of patients that have been grateful just that offering has been made. Like, no, I'm comfortable. Thank you for acknowledging, thank you for, but yeah, I think that acknowledgement is important, because you never know which of your patients have had traumas or, abuse histories, and even just that acknowledgement and it's the same, I've had male patients that have said like, I'm not quite comfortable, but most of the time, if somebody's not feeling well, they're just grateful to receive care. And so I think just the acknowledgement is important. So, yeah.
Yeah. Like there was we had me, and this is when I was interning, me and my preceptor, we floated down to a different floor, and all I know as a nurse is working in the ICU, like as a nurse, just working. Like I've never worked med surg as a nurse. All I've done is ICU. not just ICU, but a burn ICU. So the acuity for these patients are just like through the roof.
Yeah, huge.
And so I got floated down to a regular med surg unit, or I guess they call it, an ACU, or the step down unit. I'm sorry. And, there was a lady that was there. She was a pretty obese lady. And so she came from a nursing home or something like that. And we asked her if she wanted a shower or if she wanted a bath. And it was 2 men. It was me and my preceptor. And I asked her, I was just like, would you like a female to be there present with us? And she was just like, no, I'm okay. And so we actually have shower rooms, and we would take them to the shower rooms and giving this woman a shower. And you could just tell that she was just like, she didn't have to say anything for you to see just the fact of you putting hot water on her, for the fact that somebody took the time to ask her that, and not only ask her that, but to provide that care and, give her a bath. Yeah. And she had, she participated in it. Like, she washed her own hair, and, we got to areas that she couldn't get to. She was, an extreme, type 2 diabetic. And so, we were doing foot care on her, make sure everything was dry. And, and it was just all these things. And you could just tell she was very appreciative. But it's just like, even like when we were cleaning her, we were like, hey, this is what we're going to do next. And then she was fully conscious. So she would be like, okay.
No surprises. Yeah. I mean,
it's like, hey, so I'm about to do this. And she's like, okay. And so like when we were on her back or something like that, it was, I don't know, like I've gotten into the point, I think it's for the fact that I am an instructor, that I tell people the step-by-step process of what I'm doing. Yeah.
And you're not working on a car, if people want to know what to expect. So
if my car responded to me while I was doing something to it, I better get rid of that damn car. That bitch is possessed. And we don't need that in our life.
Well, I'm glad that you haven't had any negative experiences. It does help that, you're in an ICU, that, a lot of your patients are completely dependent upon your care. So they, this is the expectation, is that you are going to provide all their cares. Yeah. It's also important that you're talking to your patients because, like you said, you never know what's getting through. Just because they're on a shit ton of drips doesn't mean that they're not conscious of what's going on, whether or not they're fully conscious or little drips and drabs are getting through. Like I've had ICU patients say that they remember voices, they don't remember who their nurse was, but then they hear a voice and they're like, oh my God, were you my nurse? Because they do hear things. So it's good to be talking to your patients and giving them that reassurance and in whatever state of consciousness they're in. So
I try to do that. I'm already I guess people would say you're an introverted extrovert. Most of the time I kind of like just to do my own thing. But
me too. Yeah.
I like to do my own thing. And then if I'm around people, I'll talk, I'll be social. If I'm with my patients, I'll talk, I'll be social. And I remember, we were taking care of one patient who was on all these drips, and we even got him to like stand up. He wanted to stand up and walk while he was intubated on like, fentanyl drips. And I'm just like, how? Like, how are you standing up right now? But he remembered, I guess I would say certain things that like, or I'll be like, wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey or something like that. Right. Yeah. And he was just like, were you the one who said that? And I was just like, yeah.
I've had patients that were pretty out of it, and they remember me because of my mannerisms or like phrases that I say over and over again. I wear like really brightly colored headbands to work just to keep my hair out of my face. Right. And people remember me. They're like, oh, you're the one with the headbands. So like people remember little blips and details and stuff. So patients appreciate that. Patients remember things.
They absolutely do.
Yeah. So we've talked about your experiences as a man in healthcare. I want to talk about your experiences as a Black man in healthcare, because that's an even smaller percentage. Yeah. And I think representation matters. That's why I want to talk about it. Yeah. Because, men have a hard time sometimes thinking about being a man in a female dominated industry. But then even for young Black men that are interested in being in healthcare and in medicine, I think it's important that they see other Black men doing it so that they know that it's a viable career option. I was actually looking in preparation for this interview. I was looking at newsletters from some other that were geared towards Black men in healthcare. And there were articles that were titled things like, does being a Black nurse make you soft? shit like that. And so I'm just wondering what kind of advice do you have for young Black men that do want to go into nursing? What have your experiences been like? Have you had any bad experiences, good experiences? Talk a little bit about that perspective as a melanated nurse.
Hey, first off, let me say that you just came with a really good question, because I was not expecting that. And it's very ironic that you said that, because I was actually on Instagram yesterday and I saw a couple of interviews and a couple of videos that were saying, like, there were people that said, I want a white doctor or I want a white nurse. Mm-hmm. I have been blessed and fortunate to have not experienced that yet. Good. And I say yet because nursing is going to be a very long driven thing for me, because nursing is the stepping stone to what I want to accomplish, in the long run. I have, and I really think it's because of my military experience. Even with my military experience, when I worked at the local hospitals for like during nursing school, I didn't really have that problem. I did have a couple of problems where I did get called the N-word, and it caught me off guard. And I was just like, wait, what? And then instantly in my mind, I'm thinking very military, like, hey, who the fuck are you talking to? Right. Mm-hmm. But I realized the population of people that I am around. And, for example, one guy flat out told me, he was just like, I don't want no N-words in my room. And I looked at him and I was like, I'm sorry, sir. And he was just like, hear what I said. And I was just like, the first thing I said to myself was, no, I know he's not talking to me. But when I finally said something, which it felt like it was like 5 minutes, but it was probably all of about 5 or 6 seconds. I said to him, I was like, well, unfortunately, sir, I am the only nurse that is here, and I'm the only nurse that's going to be coming into this room. So one of a few things can happen. I could go and get the charge nurse and I can explain to the charge nurse what you just said to me, and then we can go from there. Or you can allow for me to provide care to you. That way you can, get the best care that you're getting. And, I'm taking care of, the basic needs that you need to feel safe around here. And I was just like, I wouldn't do anything to you that I wouldn't do to my own parents. And he was an older white guy. He was homeless. And as I sat in there and I talked to him, he kind of opened up a little bit more. And then he talked about his mom dying. And I was like, I'm sorry for your loss. And I was just like, and you're being very empathetic to all the things that he had going on. And I think I had to give him like a Lovenox shot, something like that. And I think what really built the trust, that I was just like, hey, so I'm going to go ahead. I have this vaccine that I need to give you. Or I'm sorry, not vaccine. I have this anticoagulant that I need to give you. And I was just like, would you like it? And he was just like, what does it do? I was just like, well, since you had surgery, I was like, it'll prevent, like blood clots and all that other good stuff. And I broke it down to him very simple. And he was just like, is it going to hurt? I was like, you may feel a pinch. I was like, but you may not feel anything. And so there was something that one of my physicians a long time ago, when I was a wee lad, when I was in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, is that, they have psychosomatic responses, so you can kind of turn their face away. So what I did is I turned his face away and I said, hey, so, do you like baseball? And I was distracting him to the point to where he didn't know. And so he was telling me about baseball. He actually really loved baseball. And I gave him the vaccine. Why do I keep calling it? Because COVID is stuck in my fucking head.
Yeah, because it's on the brain.
And I gave him the shot, and then it was done. And then he persisted, he kept on talking to me for 5 minutes. And then I was just like, oh, okay, that's great. And I was just like, all right, well, do you need anything else? And he was just like, wait, are you done? And I was just like, yeah, I was done like 5 minutes ago. And he's just like, I didn't even feel that. And I was just like, well, good. That's what I wanted. And from there, it was like, it's like his whole thought process on me, which probably didn't even stem from me. It could have just been from, how he was treated earlier in life. the era that he came from, where he grew up. He's homeless because, he's homeless, maybe he deals with, violent, African-American people, like, and this is no excuse for you to be, racist or bigoted towards anyone. But that is the reality that we live in. And that's why people form those opinions towards other races, especially, Black and brown people, and now, of course, like now Asian people because of because of COVID, and people are blaming them. But, that's a totally different story. But since I've been in the military, and the military is so diverse, working as a nurse in military treatment facilities, I have not experienced blatant conscious racism. However, I did get called the N-word again and got told that he was going to kill me. But he not only was saying it to me, he was being racist towards, Hispanic individuals, because San Antonio is about 65% Hispanic. In the primary language, I don't even know why I just did that, but the primary language in San Antonio is Spanish. So he was being, rude and disrespectful and racist towards Asian people, towards other Hispanic people and stuff like that. But he was had very bad delirium. But he probably that stems from somewhere else. Yeah.
It was in there somewhere.
Yeah. So, the best thing that I could say is that people are going to say what they want to say about you. You have no control over that. The only thing that you can do as a nurse or as a person is just, do what you've been trained to do as a nurse, and, perform the best care that you know that you can perform, and then keep it pushing. I was like, people are going to say what they want to say about you or to you. You have no choice over that. As long as people aren't trying to be physically violent.
And don't put yourself in
don't put yourself in that situation. Like if somebody is threatening you, verbally, let them know, hey, that's not going to be tolerated. If they're trying to get physical with you, let them know, hey, that's not going to be tolerated. Always protect yourself.
Right.
Always protect yourself, because there's this stigma that, nurses are so kind that you hear people committing such violence towards nurses. But if a nurse is to retaliate in any type of way to protect themselves, they lose their job, they lose their career, they lose their license, which to me is probably some of the biggest bullshit that I've ever heard.
That's a whole separate episode. That's like a topic I've been wanting to cover. Yeah.
It's just like, how are you going to fire me, take my license away for somebody who is trying to physically
protecting myself? Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's there was one just recently, I want to say it was in Ohio, or maybe it was in New York, but a nurse got a guy walked into the ER. They didn't check him, and he stabbed the ER nurse 12 times. But let it be, if she took that knife and she stabbed him, she going to jail. She getting her license taken away. She's losing her job. They were like, he's a patient. There was just so you care more, not saying anything about not caring about our patients, but care about the fucking people that take care of patients.
Right. We are not there to be abused.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And a lot of people feel like that's what a lot of people will tell you. They're just like, you're my nurse, you do what I say. And I'm just like,
no, I'm here to rehabilitate you and get you out of this hospital as soon as possible. What's a phrase that I was taught? Discharge begins at admission.
Yeah. It's like, because that's the whole thing. It's just like, your whole purpose is not to stay in the hospital. And I heard another saying, there was just like, the hospital is the most expensive hotel that you'll ever stay in.
Yeah. Yeah. And the service
the most expensive and uncomfortable hotel that you will ever stay in.
And the service sucks. The towels are scratchy.
Sure does.
The room service sucks.
I get woken up every 3 hours. People want to put fingers in places I don't want. Like, sorry, bro, you want to fucking be here. Or sometimes, most times people don't want to be there, but it's, but yeah, it's crazy. So it's just like, my advice to those people is just, take it for what it is. Don't stand for disrespect. Damn sure don't let people, harm you, because you come first. And, and provide the best care. Because all in all, you're better than that. I mean, sorry, not saying you're better than that, but you
deserve
a lot better than that.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for young men of color that might be interested in nursing but are not sure? Like, what do you say to them? And not even from a military background, but just young men that are considering that as a profession but are maybe unsure.
So the one thing that I would tell young Black men, young Black kids, boys and girls, is that if you want to do it, do it. That's the first thing I'm going to tell you to do. The second thing I'm going to tell you is to find a mentor. Find multiple mentors, like, because you're not only limited to one fucking mentor. Like, somebody's like, oh, I only got this one person. I was like, yeah, but that person is a 9 here, but there are 3 here. So let me find somebody who's a 9, in a different area that I fucking need. And that's, is just find a mentor, but also, and this isn't to be discriminatory and it's not to be racist. And I don't need people coming at me trying to, saying like, oh, why would you say that? Because this is a real reality. Find a nurse that looks like you. Mm-hmm. Find a nurse that looks like you. It's just like, if I had a young Black kid come up to me and said like, hey, I thought about being a nurse. What do you think? I will tell you my experience as a Black nurse. I cannot tell you what my experience would be like as a Caucasian female. One, I'm not Caucasian. One, I'm not female. I can't even tell you about what it's like to be a Black female because I'm not a female. Right. So, what I would say is just get mentors. If you want to do it, do the research to figure it out, to figure out your path. And I say your path is because everybody's path is different. Like, you went to nursing school on weekends. I went to nursing school all online, all online. I think I went there maybe one time for a clinical weekend, one time to do the clinical checkoffs for for injections and stuff like that. For the nursing ceremony and graduation. So I went there 4 times in a year and a half of me being in that program. So, do the research and find a mentor that looks like you. That is, and
I want to take this opportunity to shout out some of the Instagram accounts that I follow. And I don't know that these are males specifically, but I think they cover male and female, but I follow like the Empowered Black Nurse, Black Nurses Killing It, Black Nurse Practitioners. Like there are so many, and that's just like a few of the accounts that I've just pulled up right away. So, I mean, there are so many. Black Doctors Matter, Black Nurse Magic. I
actually follow a few of those already.
Yeah. And I follow these too because I follow a million nurse accounts because I want to keep my finger on the pulse of what people are doing and what people are talking about, because this shit is important. Yeah. And I want to be able, even though this is not an experience that I've lived or that I can, give advice about, I want to be able to route people to like, hey, I don't know shit about this, but here are some resources that I've found that seem to be really cool, that have a lot of followers, that talk about these things that I have absolutely no context for. Right. I think that's why it's important that I have these conversations with people on the air as well. Yeah, so, absolutely. And representation matters. I had somebody that messaged me the other day that said, like, thank you for having such a diverse array of guests, because you don't have to, but you choose to anyway. Right. And that's not to pat myself on the back. That's to say that, I want to pat my guests on the back for being willing to talk about these things, because this does matter. The people that are listening, every time they message me and say, hey, thank you for covering this topic, that says to me that we need to have these conversations more.
Yeah, absolutely. And, kind of to add on to that list of Black nurses, or just Black people, Black nurses killing it. You got of course you got Black nurses killing it, proud nurses, Black nurses of Instagram. There's another one. She's an LPN. And an LPN is still a nurse. I don't give a fuck what people, what people talk about, but it literally says licensed practical nurse. Yeah, so when somebody says to me that, oh, she's not a nurse or he's not a nurse, I was like, it literally says it in the name. So I'm gonna need for you to pump your brakes. So you got people like the nurse Sam, and she's an LPN, and I think she lives in Georgia. Like she is killing it. Like I talk to her every so often. She does, Instagram lives and stuff like that. And I'll talk to her when she's doing like T's and not HESI, T's and ATI or HESI, or she has her own NCLEX study guides, all that stuff. Fantastic. And so I actually told my sister about her because my sister was going to LVN school. And I was like, she got a lot of good stuff going on. Another one was Sarah Gaines, and she's like the 6-figure travel nurse. I love all the stuff that she puts out. And then the Paramers, I like him. Because,
I have to write that one down. I don't know that one.
My dude got a lot of stuff going. He's in CRNA school right now. I think he just finished his first semester. And, he used to be a firefighter. He was, paramedic, flight nurse, CCRN, transport, nurse, you name it. The dude he's doing a lot. So now he's in CRNA school. I think he goes to Emory, if I remember that. But I've said a couple of things to him, and he's responded back. I was just like, I can't wait to be like him because I want to do flight. And he was just like, you'll get there, bro. And I'm just like, it makes me feel good. You know what I'm saying? Somebody's, fucking encouraging me and shit. I appreciate it. Yeah. But most definitely it is the representation. The more people that look like us, it gives those younger kids, that influence to be like, hey, I can do the same thing that they're doing. That's the same thing I tell my niece. That's the same thing that I tell, my friends' kids. And I was just like, if you want to do it, you can do it. Like there's a guy that I follow. His name is the Wall Street Trapper. And, he does investments and stuff like that. And he says stuff like, Wall Street looks like us now. So it's just like, it's a great melting pot of people, but more Black people are going into Wall Street and going into investing. Just like, hey, we can get more Black people and Black men into nursing so we can have a very diverse melting pot. That's the diversity stuff that the Navy has kind of taught me because, I left a town like Killeen, Texas. Wouldn't recommend anybody going there. Don't go there. So if you can help it, don't you fucking go to Killeen, Texas. I left a place like that, for me to join the Navy. And, I was bouncing from place to place. So I met people from everywhere, from Africa, the Philippines, Japan, Australia, Indonesia, the islands like the Solomon Islands, like, people all over Europe, people in South Africa, people from, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan. Like I've met people from all over the world, and I appreciate the Navy, providing those type of opportunities for me to come across people like that, because now I have really good friends in Australia, really good friends in Japan. If I want to go to Australia right now, I'm like, hey, I'm coming. They'll be like, all right, cool. You got a room and a bathroom. Thanks. So it showed, this Black kid that was from Killeen that, the world is bigger than Killeen. Learn about different music, different cultures, different food. Who is not a foodie? And I know that you're a foodie because I hear you talk about it. The more that you're able to accept and understand what the fuck is going on, the better of a person that you are. Like me, I'm very optimistic and I'm very unbiased, and I am very I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. And that's burned me in a couple times. And it hasn't, but it allows for me to be able to see what I do and what I don't like and how I can best express myself so I can continuously grow. And I would suggest that, people put themselves in those positions in order for them to help themselves grow as well, not just in nursing, but just in life.
Yeah. And let's kind of wrap up with that. Let's talk about you expressing yourself. Let's talk about your YouTube channel and kind of your plans and where people can find more of your content and what you're doing with all that. So talk about the boot nurse. You've got that on your you got a nice little shirt on there.
Yeah, sure. It says the boot nurse, and I got some boots down there with a stethoscope. A stethoscope. I'm all backwards over here, but I got stethoscope and stuff. So the boot nurse essentially started, like I said, January of last year. And I said to myself, I would, if I pass my NCLEX, then I would, start a YouTube channel because I didn't want people to fail. I didn't want people to feel how I felt when I failed. the multiple times that I failed. If you guys want to see that video, you guys can go check out my YouTube channel.
I'll link it in the show notes. I watched that video too.
That way I don't have to sit here and repeat that whole thing. But, once I passed my NCLEX last year, I had already had a video made. It was the first through 3 videos I had already had made. I made all those videos off of my phone. I edited the first video completely on my phone. That's kind of like how it started. My whole plan with this is just to, create a brand, do the whole mentorship thing. So here's one of those things that I believe is that anybody could be a mentor. Because I see people complain about like, I have to pay for this mentor. And I was just like, you're not paying for the information, you're paying for the time. Because if you're not, it's kind of like, it's like investing. Like you pay to get, for a stock to do well, or you pay an advisor to do something because you expect for it to go well. You pay me, if you would pay me, it would be the exact same thing, but you're paying for my time because I've had it to where people are just like, will you be my mentor? And I'm like, sure, let's put you on a schedule. And this is me just trial and error. And then I'll be like, I'll put them on a schedule. I'll message them. Hey, where you at? Hey, what are we doing? And then I wouldn't get a message back. And so then that's what I started to realize it's just like, it is like, if you have value, never do it for free. So, I'm starting to segue myself into that area, but, I have, a plethora of ideas, from content to starting my own podcast to having, people on my podcast. I'm just trying to figure out like the format of what I want to do. Going to those nursing conferences and talking to those people that are there, giving my whole thing is I don't want to do the educational, like the step-by-step sort of things, kind of how like Nurse Sarah does, but I want mine to be just like informatic. It's just like, hey, I know where you guys can get the best information. Nurse.org or All Nurses or, like Nursing Uncensored, episode 127. She talks for, 4 hours about this subject, everything that you need to know about it. Check it out. I don't have no problem giving people shout outs in regards to that. It's just like, that's the direction that I'm going. It's just very informatic.
You're like a resource aggregator.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, hey, I know where to find. I created a website called thebootnurse.com. So, you just put, https://
I'll put the link down.
All that good jazz. I have a couple of shirts on there, not this one, because this one was a prototype. But if y'all want this one, if you guys can see it in the video version, and I'm sure Adrian will put it up there.
Yep.
But, my biggest thing is just to build this brand of, nurse advocacy. It's just to let everybody know that, hey, you're a nurse and you could be super fucking successful and it doesn't necessarily have to be at the bedside.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
It's like you can like, who's another one I love? Oh, Whole Life Nurse.
Yeah. Yep. I feel like we share a lot of the same resources.
Oh my God. You know what we should do? We should do like me, you, and her, like on a podcast, like, because I stay on her Instagram and I'll be saying some wild shit. I was just like, hey, like she put some up there where they were talking about the hospital workers. They were just like, these hospitals are saying that they can't keep morale up and nurses are walking out, and she was like, don't be fooled. You could be replaced, yada, yada, yada. The money is not worth being treated like shit. And then I put in the comments, I was like, hey, I just want to remind you guys that these are the same hospital administrators that gave you rocks for fucking Nurses Week. And some people were just like, wait. And people were like, what does that mean? They were saying nurses rock, and they wanted you to paint your fucking feelings on it so they can post it somewhere. And they're like, bro, nobody want no fucking rock. Like,
now that I'm looking at her feed again, I had to like jog my memory. I feel like I screenshot like every other thing that she posts and save
I do that. Her, Nurse Paskin, who's another one? Nurse Alice. Like, they be dropping some gems.
Yeah,
they really do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. If anybody wants to find me, all of my plugs are going to be linked, but it's at the Boot Nurse for everything.
Yeah. Bootnurse.com, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I'll link all that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Kevin, it's been great talking to you. I'm so glad that we linked up and we had this conversation.
Oh yeah. I'm definitely glad we were able to do it. I start my job on, coming up soon. And man, I would like to come back on maybe like at the 6-month mark, or maybe like at the 9-month, maybe a year mark. Who knows? Whatever you feel like you do, whatever you feel like you want to do. That way I can give people the nitty gritty, new grad, experience coming from the military aspect and then applying it into the civilian aspect of learning how, that attitude and that, that resourcefulness that I have as, being in the military and applying it to being, an RN, in an ICU. Hopefully, once I get finished with orientation, they'll put me in the cardiovascular.
Consider it done. Consider yourself welcome back. We've got a long list of repeat guests. We'll add you to that list.
Let's do it. I'm down.
Sweet. Well, watch out for scorpions. We would definitely want to have you back without any further scorpion encounters.
Look, I will set this house on fire. Okay, I'm not playing this game.
I hope it doesn't come to that. I'm not
either. I love.
Well, it's so funny because like I was telling you that at the beginning of this, there was like a spider on my chair, and that's why it took me so long. The spider was like the size of like the tip of a pencil eraser. That was what was holding me up. And you're like, yeah, a scorpion, and I'm like,
which is like a million times. It's funny because anytime somebody sees a spider, all I remember is that meme where somebody has a lighter and hairspray, and then it has like the guys from like Sopranos or from whatever gangster movie. It says, "I want him dead. I want his family dead. I want his kids dead." I was like, bro, I'm roasting every spider that comes over here.
That's why I don't live in the South. The bugs get bigger the further south you go. I'll take the snow over the scorpions.
I can't do snow. I've seen too many. Nope, I'm good.
All right. Well, then we're both where we need to be. Absolutely. All right. Thanks for joining me. We'll catch you guys next time.
All right. Later, guys.
Okay. Bye.